Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about very important stories and one is about the overall role of Pakistan in the war on terrorism. As we all know that the Afghan solution is most likely coming to a logical conclusion, and the role which Pakistan has played, I think, is very important. It's appreciated by the Americans, by the regional forces as well. Now there is another very interesting story, and that is about the TTP, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Then we talk about the JUA, Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, and then there is another one, that's Hizb-ul-Ahrar. Now these three terrorist groups, primarily, they have joined hands. They are being funded by the RAW and the NDS, again to destabilize Pakistan. So this is something very important. We'll be talking about that also. And if these new wave of terrorist activities, they start in Pakistan, what would be the overall scenario like? Currently, this is one problem where we have really taken care of our security issues, and we haven't heard anything about any major bomb blasts or anything. But whenever these are funded, they are given a certain assignment. So I think that is definitely going to be another challenge in the coming weeks and coming months ahead. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, as we all know that a lot has been done. And then there was another 26 report on the UA, Analytical Support and Sanctions Monitoring Team, that has issued a report that is also with me. And again, Pakistan was praised in that as well. So primarily, these will be the major issues we'll be throwing light on. We have with us in our studio, on my right is Bashir Wali Mohammed Saab, who's a senior analyst, former DGIB. Thank you very much, sir, for taking out your time. And we'll be talking to Imran Jan Saab, who is a columnist, who's a journalist. Thank you very much, Imran Jan Saab, for your time as well. And we'll also be talking to Hassan Khan Saab. Hassan Khan Saab is also an Afghan affairs expert. But let me start from you, Bashir Wali Mohammed Saab. Now, obviously, this war on terrorism. Today, even when I was listening to the president, when he was addressing the joint session, he did mention that the price which Pakistan has paid during the last 20 years or so, when Afghanistan was invaded by the Americans, I think no other country has done so. In terms of monetary, or more than 75,000 human lives that have been lost, and I would say millions were injured in those bomb blasts and terrorist activities during the last 19 years or so. Now, sir, we hear that Jamaat-ul-Ahrar, Hizb-ul-Ahrar and Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan have joined hands, and obviously the RAW and the NDS, they are together like this, and they are preparing certain factions to carry out these terrorist activities inside Pakistan the way they used to earlier. Now, Alhamdulillah, Pakistan Army, the military and the law enforcement agency, they've done a brilliant job. Our security forces, they've beefed up at every level when you talk about the resistance against these criminals. But sir, still, even if there is a leakage of 1%, 99 you take care of, but one, that could be a problem and a half. This is what we have witnessed earlier as well. Your take, sir. What's exactly going on out there in Afghanistan?
Well, I take it in this way that how that this thing has just come up. It's very sudden, because there was a calm, a peaceful period. Our relation were improving, I would say, with Afghanistan, all that. But it has a direct relation with the India also. You know, what has happened to the Indian in the Tibet, Assam, and you know that with the Chinese, you know, the bashing that they got from the Chinese and all that. So they know that if we are not physically involved in that part of the world, we are definitely mentally, you know, we are with the China, yes, because they are one of the most strong and
trustworthy
committed
partners, I would say. Yes, sir.
Okay, they are our friends. So we are committed to them. Now, they just want to, they can't do anything over there. They have failed. So they want to off-balance China in the sense that to chase us, you know. They are really interested in Pakistan, and they are really, as I've already said, are very good friends. So this thing has started now in the Afghanistan. This is how I look at it. And I would, for a major this thing, I would say that we are responsible for it. We, in the sense that all along we have been harping in this nonsense that most of our even so-called, people who has the probably capacity and of thinking, unfortunately most of our people, they don't have that thing. We say peace in Afghanistan will be peace in Pakistan.
But it's true, sir. Because whenever Afghanistan is destabilized, it had a direct effect on Pakistan.
I agree
Whether
with
you talk
you.
about Soviet invasion or you
in-
talk about the American invasion
no,
or
no, no,
otherwise.
no. That is okay. I agree to that extent that if there is no, peace in Afghanistan, there won't be. But it will be a different. We have to view that what kind of peace you are talking. We are involved. We are committed to them all along. This statement, but like you are sitting here, and you say the peace over there, the peace is in Pakistan. Now, how much you know about the inside?
But don't you think, sir, things have
Let-
changed?
but
We are
let me
talking
tell
about
you.
new alignments, the overall changing scenario in the Middle East for that matter. I think a lot of things have changed. Sir, if you allow me, let me also bring in Imran Jan. Imran Jan, sir, let me refer to this United Nations report, 26th report. What it says is a massive TTP presence inside Afghanistan. It says TTP carried out high-profile attacks in Pakistan. They have admitted 6,500 terrorists active in Afghanistan. And now it is not only the TTP. I'm also talking about Jamaat al-Ahrar, Hizb al-Ahrar, even Daesh. Your take?
So first of all, I respectfully disagree that if there is violence in Afghanistan, that's in the interest of Pakistan. Peace in Afghanistan is good for Pakistan. Just to clarify that, that's how I see things, because a destabilized Afghanistan is what India wants. That's what ISIS wants, because that is the only way they can destabilize and hurt Pakistan's legitimate defense needs from its western border. So that's that. Jamaat al-Ihrar or Hizb al-Ihrar, which is also called the Moment Taliban, they have now come together, and the timing is really interesting because this is the time. Remember, in the grand scheme of things, we have to understand. We all talk about Ashraf Ghani, of course, he's involved. We talk about lots of different entities. There's one person that always go unnoticed and nobody mentions him, Amrullah Saleh. I'm going to repeat that name. Amrullah Saleh is the vice president of Afghanistan. He's a former head of the national NDS, Afghanistan
NDS,
Premier
yes.
Spy Agency. And he is you can draw a direct line between him and TTP, Jamaat al-Ihrar, all kinds of these terrorist groups that have been declared terrorist groups even by the State Department, if I'm not wrong. They are the one who are, NDS is the one who is sponsoring them, of course, directly aided by the Indians to destabilize Pakistan. Now, I was talking about the timing of this. Remember, when the Americans were pushing Pakistanis to convince the Afghan Taliban to come to the negotiating table, that pressure was, again, to convince Pakistan to push the Taliban to come to the talks. These pressure tactics right now, these support for terrorist groups right now by Afghanistan or Afghanistan spy agencies and India, is to convince and push Pakistan to not push for that peace deal between Taliban and the United States, Afghan Taliban and the United States. Remember, the peace is coming. Peace deal has been signed in February, and all kinds of hurdles are being put in its way by Ashraf Ghani and by India. Because again, remember, don't forget, a destabilized Afghanistan is what serves the interests of India. A peaceful Afghanistan is what serves the interests of Pakistan. So that's that. In the grand scheme of things, the aim is to destabilize that peace deal between the Afghan Taliban and the United States. Furthermore, FATF compliance requires Pakistan to prove its anti-terrorist credentials. If you look at the detailed reports about this alliance happening right now between TTP and those other groups, JUA and Jamaat al-Ahrar, there's something in there, if you have come across, Faisal, that some of the commanders of TTP, there was a phone conversation intercepted, which basically talked about that they should spread this propaganda that the merger happened on the soil of Pakistan, not on the soil of Afghanistan, which is a lie. It happened in Afghanistan. But they're trying to spin that narrative to prove that Pakistan's anti-terrorist credentials are not to be trusted, so that FATF regime can create more problems for Pakistan. That's the aim here. That's what they're trying to do. It's a multi-pronged strategy. And the third aspect of all of this is Ashraf Ghani and India together are trying to stall for this peace deal to be executed until the US presidential election on November 3. Because there's a hope that Joe Biden might win the election. And everybody knows that it is only President Trump, despite whatever, however we may agree with him on a number of issues, it is Trump that is trying to end this war. And if Trump loses and Biden comes in, Biden is someone who belongs to the traditional class of presidents. They don't end wars, they wage wars. And most likely he will not end the war in Afghanistan abruptly, just like Trump wants to do. And that will keep Indian and Kabul's interests
All right.
alive.
So that
in
comes
Afghanistan.
back to the very basic question about the current peace deal that is going on, sir. A lot has happened, and I think Zalmay Khalilzad has played a very important role. Pakistani authorities, they have done a brilliant work as well. So at the same time, when you look at what is going on exactly regarding whether you talk about the release of the prisoners or you talk about, for that matter, how to move forward, what sort of a role should be given to the Taliban living in Afghanistan, will they in fact accept this current government? I mean, there are a lot of ifs and buts, and most likely after this Lower Jirga issue, everything is going pretty smoothly. But sir, this is not the first time then, when we thought that this process is going in the right direction, suddenly something happens. For example, sometimes the head would be killed, or sometimes the story regarding the death of Mullah Muhammad Umar would be out. And every time we have witnessed that this process was sabotaged. Do you fear same thing happening again, sir, when we are this close to peace deal?
Well, I agree to that extent that the countries, and which country I am, initially the Soviet were also involved. Now they are out of this game as the Afghanistan. It is now primarily the Indians. Okay? Now the Indians, what is Afghanistan by itself? To me, it is not a sovereign state. Not a sovereign state. It's been controlled by the Jews. Okay? Abdullah's wife is a Jew, Ashraf's wife is a Jew, and there are so many Jews into the area. Now what they don't want this thing that we call it stability. That is what we have been doing. As I said right in the outset, that for certain things we are responsible. Okay, we want, it is always that we've been saying that, okay, they are our brother, they are our Muslim brother. Yes. Okay, everybody says, who, denied that fact. But then we have to tell the Afghans also that, look, we accept you as our brother, we accept you as our neighbors, and what we have been doing for you people, that is okay. But since they are controlled, financially they are nothing. Their entire finances, it is the Indians. Whether it is in the Kabul, whether it is in the Ningrar area, whether it is in Kandahar, it is the Indian who are operating. And unfortunately, even our foreign office, I'm sorry to say, this our foreign minister, he has no idea what is happening in Afghanistan. Believe me, these people, I would go to the extent anybody who can't speak Pashto, Dari, which are he has no place over there. But We have been going, we are harping on the same thing.
But don't you
Peace-
think, sir, Sadiq Saab, who is the current person looking after the affairs in Afghanistan, he's been assigned as a special assistant to look after the affairs. I think he's done a brilliant job. He's very close to almost all the major.
It will take time. I happen to know Sadiq personally. Okay, probably these people were not even in the Foreign Office when I was dealing with Afghanistan. Let me state that. The only thing is that with Afghan, you have to be very fair and clear. Tell them, which we don't. We go there, we full of praise, we come Afghan, and they're our brother, and this especially our Foreign Office, I would say. Now they have picked up this step, I hope. What I saw of Sadiq, if he behaves in that manner, I believe that things will improve. But it is not Sadiq. It is not Ashraf Ghani. It is not Abdullah. This is the Indian. So they have the money. And anybody has the money, well, he's playing
And
his
they've
role.
mastered the art of proxy war.
So that
also.
is exactly. But we have to decide. Now, we went all out. You know the statement of Mr. Trump with regard to Afghanistan, with regard to Pakistan, So I'll not go into those details. Now they are all out. They are, they are asking us that we should support them. Yes, we are there. We are for the peace. But peace at what cost? If the peace is that, okay, pay them the money, do this and on, no, I'm sorry. We have to tell the Afghan from where this activity emerges, let's say, to be, fair, all from Afghanistan, as I said, whether it is Kandahar, what happened in Karachi, that, the operation which was carried out from Kandahar, controlled. All activities, we must hit them back. We don't want that it should be all over the Afghanistan. No.
But these groups are primarily, sir, when you talk about Hizbul Ahrar, Jamaat al-Ahrar, or the TTP, primarily they're around Kunard area, Kandahar area. So
No,
that
I
is
know.
something to worry about.
No, we have, we have
obviously-
to worry. But what we are doing nothing. Let me tell you very frankly, we are doing nothing. If we have to be very clear and tell Afghans, look, we are with you in your development, whatever you want to do. You want to be, friendly with American, be friendly with them. You want to be friendly with...
It's a separate country. They should do whatever they feel like.
No, that is exactly. But when it comes to Pakistan, they should not allow these people to use their soil against us. And if they...
Sir, this is what we have been doing for such a long time now.
So that is the
fencing is taking place,
No,
not only with
fencing
the
has been
one
done.
border, but also on the Iranian side as well.
No. That has done, and that's only the army who has been successful in this fencing business. What is our government doing? You talk about this chap, what is that, American. He's American.
Zalmay Khalilzad.
Huh? No, the fellow who is shuttling.
Zalmay Khalilzad.
Exactly. No, he comes, it's just the American money that he's talking about.
But one point which was raised by Imran, that was very important, that this is also a test trial for Mr. Trump's next election, because he's trying his level best that there should be peace in Afghanistan, or peace between the Arab countries and the Israelis to a certain extent, which they call the Abraham Accord or Abraham, maybe some sort of. But what I'm saying is, sir, that things are changing very rapidly all around us. This concept of Muslim brotherhood, ummah together because on the basis of religion, that seems to be an old school of thought now. It's more
Exactly.
about your
This is-
interest.
No,
It's
that
more
is-
about the conversion of your ideas. It's more about common adversaries, I would say.
So
There's
that
so
is
much.
exactly what I'm referring to. That whether it is Khaliqzadeh or what, believe me, I'll be very frank over this program today, that I have talked to some very, very important leaders. They were all like this Gulbuddin and so and all. They were all brought by us to that stage. We know all that. Khaliqzadeh, I think more than a dozen people have told me personally, he said he's not Afghan. Who says he's Afghan? He's American.
He is American.
So if he's American and if he thinks he will be succeed, sorry.
But again, also let me take the same point to Hassan Khan Sahab, senior journalist. Hassan Sahab, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Faisal.
Khan Sahab, we were talking about this very important development that in the area of Cunard and a related area, there is a lot of presence of the elements of Daesh, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Hizbul-Ahrar, and also Jamaat-ul-Ahrar. And they have all joined hands under the umbrella of the NDS and RAW, and they have been given this task to destabilize Pakistan and carry out all those activities which they were earlier carrying out inside the Pakistani border using the Afghan soil. Your details on this, update us.
Faisal, thank you very much. I think, this is a very crucial development because the ground situation in Afghanistan is getting changed. Once this, if God willing, this agreement between the Afghans and the Afghan Taliban materialize, and Taliban are mainstream and they become part of the government in Kabul. So I think definitely one task for the Taliban will be to fight against the international terror organizations, including Al-Qaeda and Daesh, as you mentioned. And these are the areas where Hizbul-Ahrar and Jamaat al-Ahrar and TTP, etc. were also operating. This is the same area, Kunar, Nangarhar and Paktia. So it's very close to the border of Pakistan. So this time I think the problem is at the moment both these three organizations they join hands for the fact that they understand that definitely Taliban will act against all those who are using the Afghan soil because it's part of the agreement between the Taliban and the US government, and then most probably it will be also part of the agreement between Taliban and the Afghan leadership. So I think they understand that now it will be difficult for them to get space in the areas governed or controlled by the Taliban. And you know that in 2014, when these groups move away from the main TTP, which was then headed by Mullah Fazlullah, so they get closer to Al-Qaeda, especially Omar Khalid Khurasani, who was leading the Jamaat al-Ahrar, and Omar Khurasani, who was leading the Hizbul-Ahrar. So they get closer to Al-Qaeda, and some of the TTP leadership who joined Ahrar and who joined the Hizb-Ahrar, they also joined the ISKP because ISKP is not directly linked with the Daesh operating in Iran and Iraq and Syria. So it was a totally different, and they get an umbrella of Daesh. So now I believe that this, as you mentioned, the NDS and the Indian intelligence, mostly I think this is the Indian intelligence RA, now who are trying to place them, who are trying to move them to more safer areas. One and two, when they are wean away from Al Qaeda and ISKP. So I think the pressure from the US and other international powers will be also not that much on Taliban because the US is more interested in Taliban action against Al Qaeda and then Daesh. So I don't think so that US will be that much interested to get the Afghan government, including the Taliban, to act against the terror network which are being operated from Afghan soil. Again, those terror organizations, those terror networks which are targeting Pakistan. So I think this is a very smart move by those who are handling the TTP and who are handling the Jamaat al-Ahrar and Hizbul-Ahrar, etc. Now they are trying to join them together, to unite them, and also let that impression that those splinter groups of TTP, which part their ways from TTP in 2014 and 15, the people were largely believing that they are now under the umbrella of ISKP. So now I think that impression will be also removed from them. So it's a very smart move by the handlers of these terror organizations.
I mean, this is very well explained. Uh, Now, coming to you, Imran Jan, I'm looking at your piece which you've written. You said if Biden wins, Afghan peace loses, India wins, and Kabul wins, but Afghanistan loses. Primarily, do you see a disconnect between the Kabul regime and the rest of Afghanistan? A, explain that to us. And secondly, you believe that the current people, I mean, who were also part in the previous government, both these characters, the current president Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah Saab. Now the point is that these two, they couldn't do much in the previous government. They, I mean, won't be able to do much even in this one. But since there is a lot of pressure on them by the Americans to go for this peace deal, you believe that, just a sec, that the current situation in the Middle East and that push of IS or IS for that matter, or Daesh from that side towards this side. So that means that the next battle of IS would be either fought in Persia and the areas like Pakistan and Afghanistan instead of the Middle East. Yes, Imran.
Yes. So point one is, as you said, if there's a disconnect between Afghanistan and the Kabul regime right now, absolutely. There's a huge gap between the rest of the people of Afghanistan and the Kabul regime, which is just installed by the United States. It was installed back in 2014, and it's again, at the time, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry made the deal between Abdullah and the same two people right now, Ghani and Abdullah. And the same thing right now. Now, how I would back up that argument is quite, it's in our open site. We just don't pay attention to it. Remember, the peace deal between the Taliban and the United States has the United States demanding from the Taliban basically that you will guarantee, Taliban, you should guarantee that you will not allow Afghan soil to be used against the United States and our allies to so that other foreign groups cannot come and plan and execute attacks against it. The question is, why is the United States asking the Taliban to give that guarantee? Why not Ashraf Ghani? Because the United States knows that they cannot provide that guarantee. The real power and presence in Afghanistan belongs to the Taliban. They control pretty much everything outside Kabul. Ashraf Ghani has his power inside the presidential palace and the close vicinity of that palace, which would be perhaps I'll give him the benefit of doubt and I'll say the entire Kabul, which again I would doubt. So that's the reason why there's a disconnect between Kabul and the rest of Afghanistan. So when I was saying that if Biden wins, as I mentioned before, Biden is not the kind of president who would end that war or would end it abruptly. Someday in the future, sure, he will end it, but not right now. And that is exactly what Ashraf Ghani and India are trying to do. Because remember, let's try to understand this. If America withdraws from Afghanistan, that'll be the end of Ashraf Ghani and Indian interests in Afghanistan, because Kabul will overtake. Now, Taliban will overtake. Now, when Taliban say that we will guarantee that no foreign group will come and use Afghan soil to attack against America, their demand is basically, if you want us to not allow Afghan soil, every or any inch of Afghan soil to be used against you, you better let us rule over the whole Afghanistan. Because if you have these guys sitting in Kabul, we cannot guarantee everything because we don't control the whole Afghanistan. And the Americans really know this and they understand this. And they are, the way it looks to me, they are going to allow the Taliban to march to Kabul and control everything. Ashraf Ghani knows this too. And that is his game right now. He's trying to delay this peace deal execution as much as he can. All these, the coming together of this TTP and Jamaat al-Ahrar and these other groups, Hizb al-Ahrar, these are not isolated events. These are small bits of a grand scheme, basically trying to undo the peace deal, trying to slow down and stop the American withdrawal from Afghanistan. That's Ashraf Ghani's and Amrullah Saleh's game. That's what they're trying to do. Because as I mentioned, if Americans withdraw, that'll be the end of the current Kabul regime, which is Ashraf Ghani and Amrullah Saleh. That is
obviously, and then there would be chaos. That's exactly what it says. That the Taliban also say that you can vacate, and later on, if things go well in the right direction, later on the Americans can come, have their embassy in Kabul. Obviously, the old school of thought of the Taliban of 90s, that has really changed and diluted over a period of
They
time.
support women
Correct, sir?
education and all
Those
sorts of
Taliban,
things,
the
yes.
hardliners, I think, sir, this is 2020. They've also realized, they also use these smartphones now. They do understand that now things have changed.
They have been using it much before us, you know. They were provided by these people who are now, you know, fighting for the Americans, you know. So they were using all those equipment which probably we haven't used as yet. So that is the Taliban part. I would agree generally with my friend, what he said, the Ashraf Ghani and the Abdullah part, they means nothing. Okay. It's not a stable government. Ashraf Ghani and both, it is all battle now.
Even if it is a puppet regime, but so somebody is there at some post calling the shots, at least at the domestic level. Obviously, under the command of the Americans, because if they don't want, nothing is going to happen.
Well, well, that is how you may be looking at it. Internally, even the Americans don't have that. Okay, well, the Americans, they are, you know, entrenched in their own, whether it is Bagram or whatever the areas that they are controlling. They are just controlling the peak of their offensive and all, whatever you call it. They were not controlling more than 40% of Afghanistan. So it is, they are there. Of course, nobody wants to go, and the Afghan thinks now that why should we go and get ourselves involved? That is now there. The Americans have tried their best, and now it is not the Taliban who are going to decide this thing. It's not there. It's a mutual sort of a game which is being played.
It is most likely going to be a power sharing formula.
It is exactly their power. And Afghanistan is, you know, there has never ever, you know, a solid, you know, stable government in Afghanistan. The centuries you just go, whether it was the Afghan governments in the past and, you know, all, they were never the government, you know. It's a tribal society. Basically, we must understand Afghanistan. It's a tribal society. One tribe, the other tribe, they don't believe. Okay, even for some reason, even now that we talk about this peace and American, they are all after the American dollars. Okay, everybody busy. Who can snatch the
Major share.
major share? That is the. But as far as we are concerned, why are we poking our nose into their affair now? And poking our nose into the affair where we would again get stuck.
So there was this general idea that when you talk about Afghanistan, obviously Pakistan always wanted to have its influence, and we had a lot of influence in Afghanistan, either through Taliban or otherwise. Things changed in Iran, things changed in Afghanistan, and obviously the Indians, they found the opportunity, and they, you know, tried to use both these countries primarily, sir. Whether you talk about Kulbhushan Yadav, so he was coming from Iran. You talk about all this, what is going on in at the moment, when you talk of Kunard or you talk about Kandahar or rest of the places, that's where the Afghan soil comes in, actually. Do you see, now very straight questions, the last two questions. Do you see peace prevailing in Afghanistan? And do you see some sort of a settlement at some stage? Or you believe that it is not going to be an easy process, there's going to be a lot of problem, not only for the Afghan people, but for us also?
Well, I agree with you here that, well, it will not be an easy, it's not an easy game. Afghanistan is a very, very difficult country, very difficult people to, you know, deal with. And as I said, since now everybody is fighting for the dollars, okay? That is their battle.
The dollars would soon...
No, that is there. But what we, as far as, again, this issue of the problem for us, there I don't agree. with anyone that, of my good friends, these writers, the analysts and whatever you may call it. No. You have to stand up. We respect them, that country. Whether it is, to me, no, it is not any more a sovereign state. The fellow in the north, he is dealing with his own affair. He is again making money. Imagine a suit, $8,000 worth he's changing every day. And look at his people. I'm referring to Abdullah. This is the kind of system which is going on.
And he was a security guard.
But we should be careful not to get involved. If we can help the country, why not? There are Muslim brothers. But then the Muslim brother must know that we are also...
Sir, when we say Muslim brother, I mean, look at what is happening in Syria, what happened in Iraq. Iran and Iraq fought such a long time. Then the attack of the Saudis on Yemen, for that matter, along with the G6 states. What's going on in Lebanon, for that matter? Look at what the condition of the Palestinians, Rohingya Muslims, the Chinese Muslims. I mean, sir, do you think this Muslim Ummah and this concept really exists in today's world?
It exists, but it may not exist in Beirut. When Beirut was a Muslim country...
Sir, Afghanistan never accepted us. I mean, we still call them the brother mulk and brother
it is we.
Country.
Why you
they don't love you or they don't like you anymore.
The people like you. Let me tell you again.
The Indians have poisoned their minds?
No. The Indians, again, I don't look. We will go into this discussion. The Indian, they have not poisoned. They have poisoned the mind of their leadership. They have poisoned the mind
universities, colleges, you talk about conferences.
Exactly.
I mean, the youth primarily. I mean, they listen to the Indian music, they like the Indian movies, they like... the Indian influence is really...
No, Faisal, I agree there with you. You want to change the things in Afghanistan if you are comparing a Muslim of Afghanistan with the Muslims of Iran or the Muslim of Beirut or Iraq or Syria. Where was Islam in Syria?
The point is, sir, we say Muslim
Ummah,
Muslim
exactly.
Muslim countries.
Okay, so we are, at least there will be some sort of element which are there. So if we should not go for this, this Ummah business and all that. We should tell them very clearly, as far as Afghans are concerned, okay, we will help you, we will do this, whatever you want to do. But using your soil against us, no, it's not acceptable. If they do that, we must hit them back in those very areas.
I think this is what I really wanted you to say, sir.
Yes.
Hit them hard where it hurts the most.
Hit them hard in the area where they are operating against us.
The sovereignty of Pakistan.
Yes, that is supreme.
The sanity of our... I mean, this is really important for us. I don't care if there is a Christian guy who thinks good of me instead of a Muslim who is planning to kill me.
Yes.
So that Christian is going to be closer to me as compared to him. I said, no Muslim Brotherhood, no nothing of that. So last closing remarks from you, Imran Jan Saab.
I just want to mention that I agree there's no such thing as Muslim Ummah and it's all about interest. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, the way I feel, when Pakistan came into being, it was Afghanistan that rejected to our creation. Then I'm just going to go quickly through this. In the early 1950s, they allowed the Soviet Union to have bases on their soil, targeting basically Pakistan because we were allied with the United States. Then Pakistan was home to the largest number of people from Afghanistan. That's the largest number of refugees anywhere in the world. And the way I feel is that instead of being thankful and acting as a brother in a neighboring country and an ally country, they still go against us. And there are still a certain number of people, as Faisal mentioned, they're victims of Indian propaganda. So the way that's just how I feel. I would rather have them thank us, which they don't, I guess. And the other thing which Faisal you asked me about in the previous question is, yes, ISIS is active in the Afghan region now, and ISK, basically IS Khorasan. I would just like to say that India needs to really watch out because they're playing with fire. if they're supporting and if their interests right now are converging with those of the IS, the grand plan of IS also includes India in their Khorasan region. They will come after Indians too, and there could be a massive war, massive bloodshed, because India is a nuclear-armed country. All kinds of things can happen. So to support such groups just for your short-term interests is not a good strategy, and it could be disastrous. So they should be careful, I think.
All right. Thank you very much, Imran Jan. Thank you very much, Janab Momin Saab. It was a pleasure having you after a very long time, sir. As we have recently started having guests in the studio, but it was a pleasure to have you. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you tomorrow. Inshallah, till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.